All right, everybody, want to grab a seat?
Yes.
So, glad you guys are here. Real troopers. This is the last week, of course. And if I do this thing again, it won't be for at least 3 more years. So, I went 29 years in a row, and then I took 3 years off, and here I am again. So, but anyway, I'm glad you guys stuck it out. Hopefully, this has helped you, and you've learned some things.
Yes.
Regardless of how long you've been sober, there's always stuff to look at differently. You know what the fly on the mirror said, right? It's another way to look at it. So, So just for your information, I think the week after Labor Day, which is like September, something like that, I'm gonna do one more pool party. So you guys are all welcome to that. I'll send you out some.
Me an email.
Yeah, I'll text you and let you know. But we'll do one more party. Hopefully you'll make it this time.
Float trips that weekend.
Our tranny went out on her way there. That really sucked. Come on in, guys. Glad you're here. Okay. So what we want to talk about this week is we want to go over carrying the message. Sponsorship. And a long, long time ago, I don't even remember how long ago it was, many, many years ago. I don't know, over 25 years ago probably, somebody asked me to do a workshop on sponsorship. And anytime all these workshops that I've done over the years, I had it, the first time I had to put it all together, right? So I didn't know exactly what to do, so I went out and I asked 10 people that I respected in recovery the same question: what is a sponsor? And I'm going to read you what the 10 people said. The first person said, someone to talk over my screwy thinking with. The next person said, someone to share your problems with, an insurance policy when you have an accident. Someone said, someone you respect that you can talk to and walks like they talk. Another person said, somebody to go to for guidance that is unemotionally involved and can give you unbiased advice. I like that one. Somebody else said, a sponsor gives time and experience of the program and is living the program the way you want to. Another person said, a sponsor should be a generally involved, participating member of the fellowship that has a working experience of the big book. Someone to guide me through the steps that seems to be enjoying sobriety. Another person said, a sponsor's role is to look and act right. The best way to sponsor someone is to be a role model. Then somebody else said, someone who is pleasant and happy 98% of the time is either a little slow in the brain or is a good sponsor because he is most likely walking the talk. And the last person said, someone who can put up with my shit without putting up with my shit, and I keep going back to, is a good sponsor. Then some comments that they made were, the way to fully learn something is to teach it. That is sponsorship. And honesty is the foundation of sponsorship. Trust is the vehicle that lets it move along. And somebody else said, my sponsor taught me that I am not the con man, I am the mark. And somebody else said, suppose you were an idiot and suppose you didn't have a sponsor or didn't work the steps. But I repeat myself, don't I? All right. So that's what these people, their opinions were on what is sponsorship. So before we move into this now, has anybody got any questions on anything that we've gone through these last 21 weeks? They want to talk about something not clear to them? Want to discuss something a little further? Nobody, no?
Joe's not here. Nothing.
So the best advice I can give you is to be a good AA person, because if they want what you have, they'll get it. And if they don't want what you have, you can't give it to them no matter how hard you try. And that's an important lesson to learn. And here's a good gauge to gauge where you're at. If you're sponsoring somebody and you're doing more for them than they're doing for themselves, you are not sponsoring them, you are enabling them. Very important lesson there. Another important lesson is, it's not my job to stop you from feeling pain. That's not the job of a sponsor. In fact, pain is good. Pain in your life, you work the steps. This way I don't have to convince you to work the steps. The pain will convince you to work the step. So the message is really quite simple. If you want to be right, act right. Last week we went over what the message was, what the message is, and what the promise that is given us in the first two parts of the 12th step. Let's talk about some of the things we hear all the time. We hear like, we're not bad people trying to get good, we're sick people trying to get well. That sounds nice, but the truth is that I can't get well and continue to act badly. Can't grow spiritually while I'm doing negative stuff. So if something's bothering you, stop doing it. I can remember early on, my sponsor, I would share something with him. He said, "You don't like that?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, stop doing it." If I can stop doing it, I wouldn't be talking to you about it. But that's really what it's all about. So here's what the program teaches us, that if you do certain acts gradually, you'll live differently. You'll feel differently. And you don't have to drink or use in the process. There's no magic, there's no secret. If you take certain steps that are suggested as a program of recovery, you will so reorder your perception of life that you will be able to live as you in this world without having to escape you or the world through alcohol and drugs. I think last week we talked about we can't sell recovery, we can't give it away. All right? So, a good way to look at a sponsor is like a guide on if you're going on like a 3-day fishing trip, right? The process of recovery is made easier with a sponsor, because it's like you're going on this fishing trip, right? You get a guide, you know, he knows right where to take you, because he's been there many times. He does this all the time. Me, I'll be walking all around the woods and the water trying to find a good spot to fish, right? I could get a guide, it's easier. So here's a question: when can we sponsor? When can we start sponsoring? What do you think about that?
When you have more time than the person you're sponsoring.
Okay. Some people say after your 5th step you start sponsoring people. I don't know where the literature says that. But
Steps.
Well, you said last week if you're on the 2nd step, you can start sponsoring somebody on the 1st step.
yeah, I also said though you can't give away something you haven't got. You know. So when I got here, I didn't really consider it very much, but I didn't. Nobody that had, you know, small amount of sobriety months had, you know, anything that I want. Nobody had anything I wanted when I got here. Really. I mean, the truth of the matter is nobody had anything that I wanted. People with 30 years of sobriety, nobody had anything I wanted. What happened to me was I got to the point where I didn't want what I had anymore. That was the important thing. And because I didn't want what I had anymore, I had to do something about that. But I never considered asking somebody with 6 months over to sponsor me.
I think you need to work through all 12 steps, personally. This is my personal view. Just
Well-
because I feel like that's where you really start having a spiritual awakening and just more connected and understand the program a little better. That doesn't mean you're gonna have years, but. you know,
Yeah, but the problem with that though, Karen, is that sometimes people work through the 12 steps and then they don't do nothing else. And now, 5 years later, they only worked through the 12 steps once and now somebody wants to
well,
sponsor them.
That's their problem.
Yeah. So, you know,
You're right.
yes, if you have worked the first step, you could help somebody work through the first step. And, the simple truth is that if you're working with somebody and they come up with issues or problems or situations that you don't know about yet, because you haven't been sober that long, you can ask your sponsor or somebody else in the room, And I've sent many people to other people on certain topics to talk to them about. So that's important. Okay? And some people come in the rooms and they want to get well and then work the steps. You don't get well and work the steps. You have to work the steps to get well. So now the steps are not designed to make you stop drinking or stop using. They're not designed for that. You have to stop drinking before you come in here and start working the step. The steps are designed to change you through an awakening spiritually to where you don't want to drink, you don't want to use, you don't want to alter your mind. So it's really about, if you don't like how you're feeling inside and you don't want to feel that anymore, then you can change. That's the truth, is that we are all capable of changing, When I sponsor people, nobody I've ever met in all my years of sobriety has ever come up with a situation where they can't do something because of who they were or where they came from. I don't want to hear that shit, because I know where I came from and I've changed, so you can change too, So I don't listen to people that talk about that kind of shit. So if you do certain actions gradually, you're going to feel different. You're going to act different. You're going to be different. You ever wonder why so many people come into recovery, but most of them don't stay?
They're forced to.
Huh?
They're forced to.
No, not everybody. Lots of people come in and aren't forced to.
Sometimes I feel like the pain is so severe they don't think it is too shall pass, and they're scared they don't have that numbing substance or whatever they do, then they're gonna never feel pain.
Yeah. Well, it could be, as Lisa said, it could be what you're saying, it could be 100 other reasons combined, But the truth of the matter is, the people that stay here, they have hit a bottom. And everybody has hit a bottom, even the people that don't stay here. The only difference is some of them, they've hit a bottom, but they haven't thrown the shovel away. They're still digging. There's always another bottom underneath the bottom, right? So, I believe that a necessary ingredient for people to say is they have to be desperate and terrified when they get here. Desperation, terrified. Because no one who hasn't hit a bottom would do things like come to believe that a power greater than themselves could restore them to sanity. Why would they? Why would somebody that hasn't hit a bottom do that? Why would somebody that hasn't hit that desperate, terrified place, why would somebody like that turn their will and their life over to the care of God? Why would they? They wouldn't. So no one who hasn't hit a desperate bottom would stay around long enough to make a decision to turn their will and their life over. So it's important that all the negative, bad, horrific things that have happened to you that chased you in here, all of those things are necessary for you to work the steps. You can't leave them on the side and try to change your life, put them away, and then, no, those things are necessary in order to work these steps. Because again, somebody that's not desperate and terrified, why would they do these things? You know, why would they take a moral and fearless inventory of themselves? Why? There's no reason for somebody that hasn't hit a bottom, that hasn't been desperate and terrified, no reason for them to do this stuff. So hitting a bottom is very important. Only desperate people can do that. I don't know about how could you, why would you? Why would you make a desperate, searching, fearless moral inventory?
That's when everyone goes, everyone needs this program, and it's like, but everyone is not willing to do it, 'cause
No.
they're not desperate enough.
That's right. I think we said in week 1, I'm pretty sure we said in week 1, somewhere around there, that this, because you hear all the time about this program, you know, is for those that want it, you know, and then, no, it's not. This program is not for those that want it. This program is not for those that need it. It's certainly not, we don't have enough room for everybody that needs it. And it's not for those that want it. It's only for those that are willing to go to any lengths to get it. That's who this program's for. And our book tells us that. So you have to be willing to go to any lengths to get it. If you're not willing to go to any lengths to get it, then this shit's not for you. You ain't gonna stay. And what makes you willing to go to any lengths? The desperation and the terror of where you've come from and how you've been living. So people who are committed to their own recovery at all costs stay here. Those of us who remember the terrified desperation, those are the ones that stay here. So that's important. What else do we hear in the rooms? Here's a good one. Fired my sponsor. First of all, I didn't know I was hired for anything.
I hate that.
Yeah. When I hear somebody say they fired their sponsor, what I really hear them saying most of the time is that I'm not ready to completely give myself to this simple program. You know, because you know, if you ask me to, how many people have come up to you over the years and asked you to sponsor them, right? And then they start telling you what they need.
I'm on step 3.
Huh?
Yeah.
I attract that.
You attract that? Or I'm on step 3, yeah. Yeah, I'm in the middle of my 4th step now. You want me to help you? Step 1. I don't care how long you've been
Get
sober.
rid of their sponsors because the sponsors don't answer their phone calls or don't meet with them and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's nothing written in stone, so there are reasons why you want to. See, first rule is that you're responsible for your own recovery, above everything, right? So if you're not getting what you need from somebody, then you got to get it from somebody else. So if you're calling your sponsor, they're not answering your call, they don't meet with you, they're not working the steps with you, then it's your responsibility to get somebody else.
And we're not married. Sometimes it just doesn't work out.
No, right. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but it's, you know, I've become friendly with lots of people that I've sponsored over the years, and some I never really got friendly with, and I've sponsored them for years. Some I became great friends with, and still am. But it's just, you know, it's not about that. It's about, even the ones that I've become good friends with and still sponsored them, I've been able to know what hat to wear when we're talking about something, you know. Donna?
You know, when we were reading different people's definition, the one that said a good sponsor is able to step away emotionally I'm interested in your comment on that.
I like what he said. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Somebody to go to for guidance that is unemotionally involved and can give you unbiased advice. You know, that's so true, because I think we're all good at this, no matter how long you've been sober, because we've been doing this most of our life before we even got into the program. We can always tell somebody else what they need to do, right? Most of us are really good at that. I can certainly tell you what your problems are, what you need to do. But now you have somebody that's sober, that has a spiritual life going on, and it's easier for them to look at somebody and say, you know, okay, what is the step work telling us? You know, the step work is telling me what you need. So, and I'm not emotionally involved. You see, what we do, I think last week we said this, we carry the message, we don't carry out the message. We carry the message, we don't carry the alcoholic. So what you do with the message that I give you is your business. Whatever you choose to do with that message is your business. I'm not going to suffer. I'm not going to lose any sleep if you do some crazy shit or you get drunk or whatever. That's not on me. That's on you. So, you know, it's not my job to carry out the message. It's my job to put the message in front of you, ask you if you understand it, work with you until you say you understand it. I see and I watch you that you do understand it, and then we move on to the next thing. That's all I'm there for. What you do with that information is your business. So it's important to stay unemotionally involved with the people you work with, because you know there's so many different areas in life that I could get real caught up in your shit, you know. But here's what I've known through my own experience. When it's so easy for me to get caught up in your shit, if somebody I'm working with, then I'm not taking care of my shit. My shit is out of order, but I don't think so, because I'm sober, I'm going to meetings, I'm sponsoring people, I gotta sponsor all that, you know. So yeah, I don't get emotionally involved with people.
What I've experienced is that part has gotten easier as I've worked on different aspects of myself, codependency and things. So to be an emotional state of facts, I'm amazed that God's given me that, okay, because that's not my first nature. However, what I'm experiencing is the need for more emotional coddling. And sometimes when I state facts, rather than go on feelings, when someone is so new and just, then my codependency kicks in, like, oh, I've hurt their feelings, oh, I've gone too far, they're just here, there on the program. Do we tell me that kind of justification, how that even fits in, almost kind of.
But that's your own shit. That's your own shit, yeah. You know, that's clearly your shit, and it's got nothing to do with sponsorship, it's got nothing to do with who you're working with, that's clearly just your own shit that you need to look at and work on, yeah. You know, now if you share that with your sponsor, your sponsor will have something for you to work on. Yeah. So yeah, it's, you know, I mean, sometimes tragic stuff happens to somebody you're sponsoring and you feel bad, you know, and you could give them emotional support. But there's a difference between being emotionally available for somebody and being emotionally involved in their life. Mm-hmm. They're two different things. You know, so
Taking on their feelings. Right?
Yeah. It's knowing your place, you know.
Yeah.
Because there's people even that I don't sponsor that bad things happen to, and I always want to give them emotional support, but I'm not emotionally involved in their lives. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So one reason that you want to get rid of your sponsors, they went back out. That's for sure. You know, and if they're not working the steps and they're not doing anything, you know, You know, you get people that sponsor people and they tell you, I want you to hug 5 people a day.
I don't like that.
No, I'm not making this up. There's been plenty of people over the years that tell the people, that, you want me to sponsor you? Okay, I want you to hug 5 people a day. I don't know, you know, I don't know where they got that from. You know, Captain Kangaroo, I don't know. And here's another one. A lot of people will talk about having 2 sponsors.
Yeah.
2 sponsors.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot. Having 2 sponsors is a bad idea.
I don't like what one says.
It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea for lots of reasons, but mainly because if a newcomer comes in and he's got you as a sponsor, he's got him as a sponsor, and now he's got an issue, he calls me up and he calls him up, he's gonna do whichever one is closer to what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And he's lost the fact of unconditional surrender. You know, you come in here, this going back to the first step when we talked about the guy, the prisoner of war, remember that? He's being walked to the prison camp, he's captured by the enemy, and on the way there he says, I'm your prisoner, but I gotta have my girlfriend, you know. I'm your prisoner, but I need a car, you know. No, I'm your prisoner, period, nothing else to talk about. You do what I tell you to do. So, but when you have more than one sponsor, you haven't surrendered to the point where you're willing to follow directions. You're just willing to do what comes closer to what you want to do.
A lot of mentor. Then people talk about mentors.
Yeah,
Your mentors and the sponsors.
yeah. Yeah. You know, some people have spiritual advisors. You know, if you have a spiritual advisor, I have to ask you, what's the matter with your sponsor?
Say.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I call my sponsors sometimes.
No, you can call your sponsor that, that's fine. But some people have a sponsor and a spiritual advisor.
Yeah.
And the first time somebody said that to me, I said, oh, your sponsor? They said, no, my spiritual advisor. I said, well, what's the matter with your sponsor that you need a spiritual advisor? Right? If you got a sponsor, just do what your sponsor tells you to do. You know. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
So, yeah,
Don't we alcoholics though think, well, I got one sponsor, so 2 is better.
yeah, of
3
course.
is
Yeah,
best, and let's get one for everything, and it's
Bring
just.
it
yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
Does
sure.
the same behavior transfer over into
Right.
significant others?
More is better, right?
Bring sponsors.
Let's talk about a couple of things that we do as sponsors that aren't great things to do, right? So we're sitting, the meeting's getting ready to start. It's gonna start in a couple of minutes, or it's just starting, and your sponsee comes in, and they're all frantic and hectic. They say, I gotta talk to you. You get up, and you go outside, or you go in the kitchen, and to talk to them. Bad idea. Bad idea. That's happened probably hundreds of times for me over the years. And I always do the same thing. Sit down, take a deep breath. When the meeting's over, we'll talk. Now, that's important because I'm teaching them something there that they don't know. What I'm teaching them is they're not more important than the meeting. The group collectively is more important than you. The meeting starting in a minute, it's group time. It's time for a meeting. So, whatever's going on that you're so frantic and hectic about, take a deep breath, we'll talk about it after the meeting. In fact, by the time the meeting's over, it probably won't be half as bad as it is right now for you. So that's one of the things. Another thing is we might give advice on matters that we aren't qualified for. Or work some steps that aren't really out of the book, you know. Last week we talked about it's not optional to sponsor people. It's not optional. It's a requirement. It's a requirement that same as I made that silly comment that I don't think turning my will and my life over to the care of God fits me right, you know. I don't think that works for me, you know. That's the same thing as saying I don't think I should sponsor. So you have to sponsor people. You have to work with others. It's not optional. It's not an idea. It's a direction. So my job as a sponsor is to present AA in the most favorable light that I can. I am the best example of AA, and I am the best example of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous that somebody may ever see. I'm not talking about in these rooms. I'm talking about outside of these rooms. When I go to a restaurant, when I go to a store, you know, what do they call them here? I can't remember now.
Grocery store?
Convenience store.
Convenience store. You know, I was gonna say bodega, right? What?
A perfect example, last night, you know, I live in a Promises Recovery House, and last night, you know, the owners of the Promise Recovery took my house, myself, you know, 13 of us that live in the house, all out to dinner, and then he did this little trivia thing. And I said, oh, and they said, we aren't going to do any questions, you know, because he like gave money for the correct answer. He goes, oh, we can't do any questions on the big book because Dina's done Danny's deep dive, so she has an advantage over everybody else. I was like, hey!
Who owns the house?
Ryan and Lacey Reed.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they go, you can't. And I went, why?
Okay.
I guess everybody else should have been doing the deep dive too if they wanted some money.
Oh, darn it.
So actually, the best sponsor you're ever gonna see is right here. The big book.
Yeah.
The big book is the best sponsor because it's here, it's in black and white, it doesn't change, doesn't wake up in financial straits, it doesn't wake up pissed because it didn't get laid last night, you know, doesn't wake up, you know, frustrated and all that. It's here, it doesn't change, it's here for you to go to, it's always gonna be the same, okay? So this is the truth is right there. All right. Because I thought, there was a time when I thought that if you do exactly what I tell you to do, then everything's going to be great for you. I didn't really understand that everybody sees things differently, you know? And I made some errors early on sponsoring people, trying to force everyone to act and react in the same way. I tell you that one time I took a newcomer to a speaker meeting that was a friend of mine was speaking, and he's a great speaker. And I was like, and the guy went through, he's dropping all these pearls of wisdom and shit. And it was just a great talk. And after the meeting was over, I said to the new guy that had him with me, I said, did you like that? He went, "It's all right. This fucking guy's great. What's the matter with you?" But I realized he's not where I'm at, you know. All this shit was going right over his head. He didn't get it. You know, the guy was a great speaker, but. And some of us, I think, you know, when we start getting emotionally involved, we want our sponsees to get this deal so bad. In some cases, we want it more for them than they want it for themselves. And that's not good. So I kind of thought there was a point where my job is to make them want it. No.
I have a question.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on, like, I have someone who I've tried to sponsor multiple times, and they just keep, you know, like, they go back out, right? So if they were to ask me again, would you still say yes to someone who has, you have started walking the steps with them multiple times, and
That's a really good question. Everybody heard that?
Yeah.
It's a really good question.
Right.
And so here's how that plays out. I will work with you if you ask me to. If you come back in, my first thing to you is what's going to be different.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want you to change something. You don't have to, but if you want my time, I want to know what it is you're going to change, and we have to agree on what you're going to change. And if we agree on something that you're going to change, then I will work with you again until you show me you're not doing the same thing. It's not my job to figure out who's going to make it and when.
yeah,
It's my job to have my hand out when somebody reaches their hand out. And for that, I am responsible. So I have to remember that. So but again, like let's say you're sponsoring somebody and she's living with a guy that's selling drugs and and she keeps relapsing. What's the chances of her making it in that environment? Now, is it possible she can make it in that? Yes. It's possible. But what's the chances?
very slim.
Very slim.
Very slim.
So, I would say, if I were you, and that was the situation, I would say to her, well, what's gonna be different this time? Well, I'm gonna try harder. No, that's bullshit. You tried harder last time. What's gonna be different? I'm gonna go to more meetings. No, that's bullshit. That's what you said last time. What's gonna be different? All the things you're talking about are bullshit because at the end of the day, you're going home to that house with this guy. But I love him. After you get sober, let's talk about what love really is. By the way, are we doing that relationship thing?
Yes,
Okay. So we'll be doing that. We'll notify you guys. We're going to do the relationship workshop. But so I would suggest, and now I'm not telling you that you have to do what I tell you to do, but my experience with you already tells me I don't need to waste any more time with you because every time you go home, it's a bad thing. So I'm willing to work with you if you're willing to walk away from that. If you're not willing to walk away from that, ask somebody else to help you. I'm not the only one that can help you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just giving you an example of a situation.
Examine
Yeah,
what has been the reoccurring thing.
yeah. You know, and what has to be different?
Yeah.
What are you willing to change? You know, because if you're not, you know, when they say I'm willing to try harder, that's bullshit. I'm willing to go to more meetings, that's bullshit. You know, something needs to change, something
Yeah.
different. But-
And it's like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of our people here that have connections with us, they'll like go out to California and get sober. And some of the things that are happening in California aren't always the way that I think that we do recovery here in Oklahoma City. And so I think sometimes that kind of plays a part too. If they're trying to work the steps with you, but they're, you know, in
Yeah.
a house that isn't really ran a lot like the sober livings here in Oklahoma City
Yeah.
are ran with. I mean,
Yeah, you know, it's a tricky situation, but if somebody's willing to go to any length, then who's to decide what length it is?
yeah.
Well, obviously they can't because they're thinking the home is still stinking thinking. So they need help. Deb?
You were talking earlier about making some errors and giving people advice. And what I try to do, and this is because I've given some really bad advice years ago, what I try really hard, and it's tough. I try not to give them any advice because they say, well, I've got this situation. If I haven't ever been in that space, I can't help them.
Yeah.
So maybe they can talk to somebody else that's been there. But what I do is I start asking them questions. Well, what do you think you should do?
Yeah.
If you do that, what are the consequences going to be?
Yeah.
And by the time we're done with the conversation, they have made a decision. And they didn't really need me at all. They just needed somebody to talk through the options with. And that has been a lifesaver.
Yeah.
I've not given any bad advice or any at all, in a while. I had one gal that was living with this guy. I couldn't stand him. I mean, he just wasn't a good influence, kind of like that situation you were in. And I said, well, I knew he's not good for you, all of this stuff. I told her what I thought. Of course, they got back together, and I wasn't her sponsor anymore, which was fine.
Yeah,
But it taught me that I don't, people do things and make decisions based on who and what they are, and the things that they come in contact with, and, you know, like,
yeah,
just things that I don't have any experience in, I don't think I have any business. And I have heard some god-awful advice. I heard somebody in the meeting last week, her sponsor told her that you never have to make an amends to your ex-husband.
God.
You know?
yeah.
And
That's one of these Hug 5 People a Day sponsors. Yeah.
to me is why you wait till you've completed this process. I agree with Karen. And the steps even say, having had a spiritual awakening, hearing the message comes after that phrase.
Yeah.
And also people can leave messages.
Then we're able to carry a message because we have one,
Yeah.
and we can practice the principles because we're able.
Right, but look at the foundation. I agree with you on most of that, but yeah, look at our foundation. Bill sponsored Bob with just a few months sober. Abby sponsored Bill with a couple of months sober.
They have no one else.
Yeah. Well, no, but you know, that's my point. So, another thing is, like, you hear people say, men don't sponsor women, and men sponsor men. I've been sponsoring women for 25 years or more. And here's the truth of the matter. If men didn't sponsor women, there would be no women in Alcoholics Anonymous. You guys wouldn't be here.
But we don't now need you anymore. We can sponsor each other.
We have surpassed that.
But the idea is, you know, a suffering alcoholic. Doesn't matter what they're, you know, if they're male or female, to me, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
A suffering alcoholic. But, so, as far as advice goes, right, there's always somebody in the room that has experienced something that somebody else is going through. None of us are unique. We're not that. But, you know, I've heard people say, well, we're not bankers. We're not relationship counselors. We're not this. We're not that. No, we are all of those things. Because if you have a sober mind and you have a spiritual program in your life, you can help guide somebody through anything. The program is set up to work these steps on all matters, not just on alcohol and drugs. After alcohol and drugs, it's on everything else. So, yes, I've worked the steps with people on finances. I've worked the steps with people on shopping, on slutting around, on gambling, on everything you could think of. Everything you could think of, I've worked the steps with.
I think one thing that's I don't know, and you can tell me your opinion. When you have children and your sponsor does not, sometimes situations that you need to go through, like custody battles and things like that, you might need someone. Now, you can keep that sponsor, but having more conversations with someone in the program that has dealt with those specific experiences,
Yeah, well, that your sponsor should say to you, you know what? Talk to Karen. She's got some kids and she's went through some, and so your sponsor should be able to move you to somebody to talk to. They're not relinquishing their sponsorship.
Yeah.
They're just helping guide you. That's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. Here's what happens. Sponsees are a lot like little children. Follow me, because this is the truth. A sponsee comes in and they ask you to sponsor them. To that person, you're God. You're, like when a little kid to their dad, right? Their dad is God to a little kid, right? Mom is like an angel to the little kid, right? Well, to the sponsee, you're an angel. You're God. You're the ultimate, right? And as the child grows up, becomes, a kid, a preteen, an adolescent, right? they start seeing your humanness, the parents' humanness. And the same thing, the sponsees start seeing your humanness, right? And so, and the parents telling the child things that the child don't really want to do, and the sponsors telling the sponsee things they don't really want to do. So they kind of grow apart, right? And then when the child becomes in their 20s, they start thinking about what their parents told them once upon a time, and they're thinking, wow, I didn't realize it then, but they were right, you know. And the sponsee, the same thing. And so the cycle goes like this, and it comes right back. Eventually, you know, when the child is grown up person, or when the sponsee's got 20 years now, you know, they look at their sponsor with a whole different attitude, like the kid looks at his parents, you know, that the wisdom of the parents, the wisdom of the sponsors. Didn't catch it when I was a teenager, but I caught it when I was 25.
As far as like the communication, you know, when my sponsor to me, I don't have to make amends to my ex. The sponsor could have said, you don't have to make amends to your ex today, because this is a daily program, and if not somebody who's going to be frantic, you might say that. So you can say something, but people hear it differently. And so then it's almost like a game of gossip. Well, I tell you this, and so that is something that, you know, I always make sure that the communication is clear.
Yeah, you know, we don't know, but there is, you know, I'm sure there are circumstances where the sponsor told them they don't have to make amends to your ex, you know. Just listen. Okay, go ahead, what's your question?
When you're talking about sponsorship, and what was I missed it when you said that everyone is supposed to and needs to sponsor? And
Yes.
if you don't, what does that mean? And if you haven't,
What does the 12 step say?
maybe if you've only done it once or twice. throughout
Here's what the
your
12 step
entire
says.
thing. Okay.
Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So, what part of carrying this message to alcoholics doesn't make sense?
Well, I've heard in so many meetings, they say if you're not someone that's, people are asking you, or you're not someone that's doing that part of it, you can come to a meeting, you could sit in the chair. I mean, you're doing other things besides that one part, and it's okay.
Well,
I mean, you know, there's usually certain
there's a lot.
women
Yeah,
that
we
have
talked about this last week. That
And I missed it.
You could do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but you still need to work with another alcoholic.
Says it's paramount.
Well, so how do you, are you talking about just grab them off in
Well,
the meeting and say, okay, I'm going to sponsor you?
No, but if you attend H&I meetings, you'll get somebody eventually that'll come out of there and look for you and ask you to sponsor them. If you share, if you're growing spiritually, you'll share that in meetings, and that is attraction to somebody that's suffering, right? So, and if, a lot of meetings they'll ask who can sponsor people. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. And you, if you're attentive, you'll know somebody's new in the meeting. Nothing wrong with you going up to them and saying, "Hi, I'm so and so. You know, do you have a sponsor? No. If you want help, here, let me give you my number. Let me have your number, and you can contact them." So all of that stuff is okay.
One thing I can tell anybody how to get a sponsor, you go to bad meetings.
You go to what?
Go to not good meetings.
What are those?
Sunday and Monday at 8 o'clock to listen. And it's not that they're bad meetings, it's, you know, I get in this situation where I want to go to the Sunday 10 a.m. and I want to go to the good 5:30 meetings because it's about, I enjoy those meetings. Sunday at 7, Monday at 8, I have to make myself go. Because there is a lot of new people there. Every time I'm in there, there's a lot of new people there, and you can get a sponsor if you want one, but it's,
Yeah, you can always find somebody to help.
you know, it's inconvenient sometimes, and you gotta kind of look for them, but they're out there.
The greatest inconvenience.
Okay, listen.
Inconvenience.
I'm gonna read this thing to you. We're gonna close with this here. Does anybody, have you guys ever heard of Sam Shoemaker?
Yeah.
You've heard of Sam Shoemaker?
Stand by the door.
He was a good friend to AA. He wasn't an alcoholic, but he was a good friend to Bill and to the early AA people. And he wrote this thing that I'm gonna read to you. It's called "I Stand by the Door." And this is from Sam Shoemaker. I stand by the door. I neither go too far in nor stay too far out. The door is the most important door in the world. It is the door through which people walk when they find God. There's no use my going way inside and staying there when so many are still outside and they, as much as I, crave to know where the door is. And all that so many ever find is only the wall where a door ought to be. They creep along the wall like blind people with outstretched, groping hands, feeling for a door, knowing there must be a door, yet they never find it. So I stand by the door. The most tremendous thing in the world is for people to find that door, the door to God. The most important thing any person can do is to take hold of one of those blind, groping hands and put it on the latch that only clicks and opens to the person's own touch. People die outside that door as starving beggars die on cold nights in cool cities in the dead of winter. Die for want of what is within their grasp. They live on the other side of it. Live because they have not found it. Nothing else matters compared to helping them find it and open it and walk in and find Him. So I stand by the door. Go in, great saints. Go all the way in. Go way down into the cavern cellars and way up to the spacious attics. It is a vast, roomy house, this house where God is. Go into the deepest of hidden casements, of withdrawal of silence and sainthood. Some must inhabit those inner rooms and know the depths and heights of God and call outside to the rest of us how wonderful it is. Sometimes I take a deeper look in, sometimes venture in a little further, but my place seems to be closer to the opening. So I stand by the door. There is another reason why I stand there. Some people get part way in and become afraid, lest God and the zeal of His house devour them. For God is so very great and asks all of us. And these people feel a cosmic claustrophobia and want to get out. Let me out, they cry. And the people way inside only terrify them more. Somebody must be by the door to tell them that they are spoiled for the old life, for they have seen too much. Once taste God and nothing but God will do anymore. Somebody must be watching for the frightened who seek to sneak out just where they came in, to tell them how much better it is inside. The people too far in do not see how near these are to leaving, preoccupied with the wonder of it all. Somebody must watch for those who have entered the door but would like to run away. So for them too, I stand by the door. I admire the people who go way in, but I wish they would not forget how it was before they got in. Then they would be able to help the people who have not yet even found the door. Or the people who want to run away again from God. You can go in too deeply and stay in too long and forget the people outside the door. As for me, I shall take my old accustomed place, near enough to God to hear Him and know He is there, but not so far from people as not to hear them. And remember, they are there too. Where? Outside the door. Thousands of them, millions of them, but more important for me, one of them, 2 of them, 10 of them, whose hands I intended to put on the latch. So I shall stand by the door and wait for those who seek it. I'd rather be a doorkeeper. So I stand by the door. That, my friends, is the 12th step. All right, we got a few minutes. Anybody want to ask any questions or do anything or say anything?
So you said you'll reach out to us for like the relationship class and the pool party. How are you gonna do that?
The relationship class and the pool party are two different things. We're not gonna talk about relationships and
the pool
jump in my
party?
pool. That'll certainly put a damper on things. No, I will send out, I don't know if
Write your email down.
if you have, well, I don't need your email, your text. Most of you guys have my number, right?
Yeah, I have your number.
So just text me.
Okay.
And I'll put you in my phone and I'll send it out. I think it's gonna be the week after Labor Day, I'm gonna do the pool party. But I'm going to Italy on the 18th with my kids and my grandkids. And I'm gonna be gone for 2 weeks. And so when I come back, the last day of August, I think right after that is Labor Day. And then the week later, I'll have the party.
Will you say your number again? I wanna make sure I.
727-534-2098. And I don't know when the relationship workshop's gonna be, but it's gonna be 2 hours. Hour, take a break, another hour, finished. It'll be, I don't know when it'll be.
Where will it be?
It'll be at the Western Club. And, yeah, it's just one day, it's just 2 hours. And, one other thing is anybody's interested on a road trip, I think October 2026, I'm going to Dublin, Ireland to do a 3-day Big Book study. Anybody wants to go fellowshipping to Ireland? Anyway, guys, thank you for sticking through this. Appreciate you.